Hello, everyone. To all of our readers and viewers for the Boston Poetry Marathon, welcome. My name is Christina Liu, and I will now have our technical host for the hour introduce himself. Go ahead, Tim.
Hi, I'm Joe Elliott. I'm happy to be here. I love the Boston Poetry Marathon, and it's just great to be participating. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. And our organizers for this year's event, the Boston Poetry Marathon online for 2020, are yours truly, Christina, aka Xtina Strong, Suzanne Mercury, and Bridget Eileen. Thank you so much to the organizers. Thank you to our volunteers for the weekend, Tom Daly, Tim Geiger, Gilmore Tammy, Joe Elliott, Douglas Rothschild, and especially to Chad Parento, who definitely deserves a shout out as a special assistant to Carol Weston, as well as his being a tech host. We are streaming live currently to our Facebook page at Boston Poetry Marathon, our Twitter via Periscope at Bos Poetry Mara, and live on our YouTube channel. For links to these broadcasts, go to bostonpoetrymarathon.wordpress.com/watch. This year's Boston Poetry Marathon is a fundraiser for local organizations that work for racial justice in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. Donations will go to two organizations, Sistify Rhode Island and the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts. Donations are certainly appreciated. $10 or more would be fantastic. And for donations to our fundraiser, please go to bostonpoetrymarathon.wordpress.com/donate for more information. Go to the pinned post or bios in our social media for these links as well. So though we cannot be together in person for these readings and the breaks in between, we encourage all of our participants and viewers to share selfies, screenshots, old photos, memories, and comments on our social media. Please use hashtag bostonpoetrymarathon.com. Tag us at Boston Poetry Marathon on Instagram and Facebook, and at Bos Poetry Mara on Twitter. A reminder to our readers that you only have 5 minutes each, and the 5 minutes start as soon as you begin speaking. So any introductions to poems or anything of that nature is like part of the 5-minute reader. I will be timing the readings. Readers, please make sure at this point that your chat window is open. When you have 1 minute left, I will simply write 1 minute. When you have 30 seconds left, I will write 30 seconds. At those 5 minutes, I will have to sadly interrupt you and introduce our next reader. If you do finish before the 5 minutes, I will simply say thank you and transition to the next reader. Readers, if your connection is bad during your reading, I will interrupt you to let you know. Please follow the steps in the email you were sent for fixing a bad connection. We will then move on to the next reader if we have a connection problem with the current reader. Please make sure that your camera is directed at your entire beautiful face, especially your mouth, and please make sure that you are well lit. I'm going to introduce the readers of the hour now. Reader, when I say your name, please give a short greeting so that we may have a sound check. Amanda Hope.
Hello.
Hello. Josette Akresh-Gonzales. Hi, Josette, I can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself, please? And once more for the people in the back. Hello.
Hello.
Nice. Thank you so much. Okay. And Joe, could you please put us in grid view for now until we go to the individual readings? Thank you. Okay. And then we also have Cynthia Bargar with a Bostonian Bargar. Nice to meet you. Cynthia, can you unmute yourself as well so we can hear you? Let's see.
Okay,
perfect.
I did it. Hi.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Nice to hear you. Nice to meet you, Cynthia.
Likewise.
Kythe Heller, and I will have to unmute you as well. Okay.
Hello.
Hello. Nice to meet you. Kazim Ali.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Thank you from
You're welcome.
California. Hope you
Yes.
guys are feeling good.
Mark Pawlak.
Hello.
Hello. Perfect. Fred Marchant.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Is Zachary Bos with us? Not yet. Hopefully he will join us. Alexis Bhagat.
Hello.
Hello. And Mairead Byrne.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Thank you all so much. You sound great. Okay, so Joe, I'm going to ask you to now switch to speaker view. And then we will now have our very first reader of the hour, Amanda Hope. Amanda, you are all set.
Yay.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for having me back at the Boston Poetry Marathon. I'm so glad this is still happening despite everything. I'm going to start by reading a poem from my forthcoming chapbook, The Museum of Resentments. It should be out pretty soon. If you're interested in, you can find me on social media because I'll probably mention it like once or twice or maybe a few times when that happens. This is The Museum of Resentments. I am good at affliction and sky. My resume lists each piece of flatware on which I have left a fingerprint. I'm efficient as a seamstress on the fabric of a pleasant afternoon, or a tiny legislature on the slowest day of the term, month of gravy, month of mint. Contentment is not my habitat. Like a koala, I'm forever chewing the least nourishing food. How did the display cases come to be infested with these flagrant bees, leaving comb upon comb of unexplained kindness? My cherished coyotes gaze homeless now from outside the windows, unquenchable as sweetness soured on my tongue. Like many of us, I have some quarantine poems. So here's a couple of those. The world has gotten over us. The sun stretches itself out in empty cafes, like an ex who doesn't recognize your number. Adolescent trees widen the cracks in the blacktop, growing up around our interruptions. Our feeble architecture happily tenanted. The bark of beeches expands, erasing each generation's carved initials. Routine, the way I do my dishes. This one is called Mindfulness. I'm sure it is a useful thing to practice in these times, as we say now, and I will vouch, certainly, that if there is a way to make the mind cease its rattling at the bars of the cage, then I need that remedy. It is hard not to think, during the relentless rise of daffodils, that perhaps the ghosts of past ill-tended plants have finally turned the tables on me, as I now wither under the constraints of insufficient space and light, while they, smug, flourish. And to keep from getting carried away by all this paranoid fantasy, I'm supposed to close my eyes, you say, and focus on my breath, while we lock ourselves indoors against a deadly virus which appears first in the lungs with shallow breathing and a bit of cough. It's not very much like being rocked by the body's gentle motion, more like checking the oven over and over again to see if I left it on. I've been trying to write some love poems these days, which is kind of a new thing for me, but giving it a shot. It's a little tricky. This is one of those. It's called Your Amaryllis is Definitely a Surveillance Device. I mean, sounds like a love poem, right? We're off to a great start here. Your amaryllis is definitely a surveillance device. I mean, look at it, all stocky, with flowers just at the very top, like those cell phone towers designed to look like no known tree. phonograph-shaped flowers array in all directions to pick up your words and answer the question, to what are you loyal? To whom? They show up in everyone's mail at Christmas, as though some nameless autocrat made a New Year's resolution to get to know us all a little better. And what has yours learned about us? Two women whispering in the dark, or sometimes crying out? Does it know the way we trust that neither of us would open the other's journal? No agreement was made, no promise extracted. I want to know everything about you, my love, but I want you to give it to me, a small fruit falling into my hand each day. I would never take it the other way by forcing the bloom. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Amanda. That was beautiful. Let's see. So next we have Josette. Josette, are you all set to read?
I am. Thank
Great.
you.
You're welcome.
Amanda, that was awesome, as usual. We'll start. I'm going to read this poem where the first line is the title. Did you once spend a full 23 minutes without looking at your phone? I imagine I'll either live to 99 or 45. Either way, my last breath will rickety split the house on fire. My knees tucked into my chin, my embryo skin wrinkled and wet/dry and seething with prayer. On my last day, I'll write my own anthem, play my own funeral. I once cut off the hair of all my dolls, and when my parents asked why I had ruined them, I thought quick. In the summer of '96, I danced the Macarena so many times I could even demonstrate it to you now on the last day of my life. There was a boy with glasses and braces everyone stayed away from, but I taught that adorable dork how to kiss me. I taught several boys how to properly kiss. Girls don't need lessons. I can decorate a cake. I know how the world works. Babies start out cross-eyed, and if you're lucky, a strong suck, only to see a foot from their cute little noses. I have 2 breasts, and I use them for their God-given purpose. No, I'm not starting a war. Can't I take pride in my accomplishments? I also found my contact lens in a pile of leaves. Fastest 100 meters in 8th grade. Planted a tree when my son was born, and now we have peaches every summer. Forever is a scary thought, a young child said last week. Would it be better to think about how everything ends? I asked, paring the rotten bits off. No, she said, eyes wide. Okay, I said, don't think about it then. And I'm going to read a poem that was printed in this anthology of poems on abortion, edited by Annie Finch. It's out, it just came out from Haymarket Books, and I encourage you to go buy it. It's fantastic. So this poem I wrote is called, I am used to keeping secrets about my body. A bottom drawer of just-in-case ovules, treasure of candida, ointment if you do not feel some relief. Bathroom door locked, rashes I've treated in the mirror. The doctor I had for 10 years, never not awkward, and when I revealed the pink pustules exploding, oyster shell, yellow and white, my breast, the underside of the breast, he only glanced, said he suspected poison ivy. Shy, or maybe horny, doctor referred me to derm. In camp, I remember a girl whose boobs had come overnight like she had hidden a bicycle pump under her bed. I stared at her and her funny mirrors. Behind the hook and eye latch door, one of those girls taught me how to shove a tampon in. When I failed over and over, my knee high over the toilet, my bare toes balanced brown with mud on the sole, my face reddening more with each attempt. There was relief in flopping down on the bed with a pile of 17. Tips on how to break up with a boy. It's not you, it's me. I try to hike up in the Green Mountains. Focus on not peeing as I step a foot-high boulder. Down, way behind my husband and boys, our friends and their dog so far ahead, their voices damp at the summit. I watch the horizon, a done deal. I quit, I quit, I quit. About 10 years ago, a woman I worked with took me for a walk by the river, opened up like a storm. That guy she'd hooked up with, who she thought she might marry, who'd profiled on Indian Cupid as square-jawed but smart and steady, almost too good to be true, and saw again at a friend's party. Well, now I'm pregnant. Pale, nauseated, morning, noon, and night, she wondered if I had a doctor I liked who could do an abortion. Her eyes had never strayed up from the pebbled map of river path under our boots. So how far along are you? I asked. Splash, a false contraction overcoming me. I was pregnant too, and the body quickening, a kick in the guts. I don't know, she said. It could be 2 months. I don't know. I gave her the number of my doctor and promised that he would be for her a thing with feathers. This was Massachusetts in 2008. And a few weeks later, upstairs, quiet, she told me that it was done. Of course, it was never purely one thing. No, she had bled too much. She had to return to the surgeon, had to keep her secret from even her closest sister. She told me, look, I can never tell my mom. My father would disown me. I could never get married. Working in her cubicle next to mine, she took pills for the pain. She would not be in exile. In time, her sisters would paint her in henna, and she would wear a pink sari and many gold bracelets. She would enjoy the sweet smile of her child, like mine, the border of before motherhood, after motherhood, like a wall, which is grassy hill on one side, stones stacked up on the other.
Oh, that was stunning. Thank you so much, Josette.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Cynthia Bargar.
Hello.
Hello. Let me
Thank you.
use.
Okay, you can hear me.
Awesome. Yes.
Hi. Okay, thanks so much. It's wonderful to see everybody virtually. Josette and Amanda, that was great. I'm going to read a few new things. And the first one is called Fifth Qualm, The Wanting. My mother wakes in the hospital, wants her electric toothbrush and her stimulants, tells me oxycodone is Percocet without acetaminophen. That same day, in a different city, a man slithers like a narco-terrorist, hissing, there are 1 billion acres of interplanetary real estate. To pay the rent, my grandmother had a boarder who slept on the dining room table. My only living aunt is a hoarder, her childhood, dolls, and a tricycle. Letters land on my screen almost identical. I am flexible. They spell bicycle. This next poem is called Sometimes the Nature of Things. My mother's veins, her legs, ropey, lumpy, blue knots. A doctor strips them, slits her groins, hooks the bulging culprits, pulls. Everything is snake. Her veins, surf's imprint on sand, mountain ridge above the bay, Ethernet cable under the desk, umbilical cord around my unbirthed baby's neck. This is called At the Snake and Spider Phobia Study. Electrodermal response sensors filigree our fingers like jewelry from an ancient future. Subjects and objects paid informed consent givers, our fear of our fear, desire for relief, need for cash, we submit. King-size slides, mushrooms, spiders, flowers, snakes, slugs, and a crocodile. Electrotactile stimulators bewilder our bodies, alarm our amygdalae. Comrades in fear, famished. Skeptical, we meet at break time, water and crackers, contemplate the anxiety hierarchy. and the hardy among us return to the dark chamber for round 2. 2 short poems where Medusa, you can see I have a snake thing, I guess. The first one is called Medusa Goes Grocery Shopping. Enters the Somerville Ave market basket, its narrow aisles and shelves exploding with Tide boxes, Coke cans and bottles, Bing cherries in bags, tubs of tastes like butter. Pushes her cart after sanitizing the handle, complimentary wipes, strolls up and down, lingers beside organic bananas, grabs a few pounds, peels and eats. A thin white man in a white shirt and blue apron is tallying receipts nearby. He looks up. You gonna purchase those bananas? She turns him to stone. Medusa goes to the beach. She packs a blue satchel, can of plain seltzer and 2 books, Night Sky with Exit Wounds, Know My Name. Grabs a sturdy yellow canvas beach chair from the shed, walks 3 blocks to St. Mary's. Medusa remembers loneliness is still time spent with the world. The world has been cruel. Debt collectors lurk, threaten they will take everything. These they have no conception. Everyone's everything is not the same. This Bayside beach, churchyard hideaway, a bomb, her body, it grows bigger every day. She knows not why, and she is weary, cloaks herself in her sarong, soft from years of wash, drapes long, skim-scanned as she walks into the water. Sea creature born of parents who worshipped ocean, as does she, her curls floating tentacles. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hear you on the Medusa complex. I really do. That was wonderful. All right,
Thanks.
next, you're welcome. Next, we have Kythe Heller. Oops. Kythe, I just want to make sure you're unmuted. There we go.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you, everyone. This poem is about the question the Phoenix asks us, which so many of us have had to answer before or may have to answer in the future. It's the question of how to imagine and reimagine a life that's been devastated. It's about being born in fire. Mattress under the overpass. What? I'm so sorry. I was trying to play something, but I think I'm just going to have to read it live. It's called Mattress Under the Overpass. She could douse it with a gallon of lighter fluid, light the match. If she could watch like this always, always to watch, never to enter, never to feel the brightness catch and the fabric searing. Look how the mattress holds everything the body refuses to keep inside. Leak, stain, spot, and mark, but nothing belongs to it. How will she hold herself if she cannot hold this? The exhausting wheel of wounding and healing burns. Look inside the mattress, the suffering burns. The desire to heal again through suffering burns. I don't want to feel, but how could I bear not feeling? She's been floating for years, hovering somewhere above her body, I said. Is this the bed she must enter? Is this where she was conceived, in a bed of fire? Wings lifting up, mouth open, calling over the gauze of smoke, the dim orange hum coming and going over them. Did she know what knowing is as the bed burned from the outside in, black flakes oranging at the edges, then breaking off in pieces to spark out on the sand? Which was the blaze that burned through the outer husk of her? Which seared into the mattress, into every fiber of tissue and flesh, to burn away what she was, what she meant to become? There, where the wound is open, utterly still in its need, so completely still in hunger as the sway of yellows swell and fall over it, swell and fall. The skin of eyelids covering the whole of the body, eyelids all flickering, ready to exist along the whole horizon of its being, ready to exist. A unified weeping like the emergence of the soul. What do the dead want from us? What is the light of the inside? Light meeting light, like mirror meeting fire. The body of eyes everywhere, a joyful sobbing, everywhere a crackling wash of cries where the glowing coals emerge just at the center of the fluff of ash and blackened fabric. Last night, I felt the flames climb in at last to the inner core. They found the wire mesh of the mattress twisted in its skeleton of light, its body of glowing gold in the black. Joy or anguish, to be born in fire in the elemental moment, to feel the flames coursing over my bones, caressing every cell with light, until at last the fire bent down low over the rib cage and reached in. My shattered chest was coiled like wire. Heart melted down to a single pore. Then that heart melted into the form of liquid pearl, which wobbled, flowed over, and rolled, drop by drop, to shatter into resplendences of grace, scattered as seeds of light and as light waves.
I think I like this version even more. Thank you so much. It was a gorgeous reading. Yay. Grace Under Fire. Thank you so much. Next, we have Kazim Ali. Here we go.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kazim, and I'm going to read to you. I have a new book of poetry that's coming out in October. I know that feels like an impossibly long time from now, and I'm sure that we will still be in our houses then and not traveling around to read. So maybe I'll pop up on your screen again. The book is called The Voice of Sheila Chandra. She's an amazing singer, and her music has inspired me. She doesn't sing anymore. She lost her voice. And so the book is kind of inspired by that moment, I suppose. And it's a chain of sonnets. It's either one long poem comprised of sonnet-length stanzas, or it's a sequence of sonnets. I don't really know which. It's probably both. So I'm going to just read you several of those. So this is from The Voice of Sheila Chandra. What represses, unhomes in the sound, who has made me? What is made me? Is a voice just muscles and shape and breath to phrase a song? Boats assemble at the mouth of the harbor, mouth in earth, you who wrote an ode to silence never wrote of what is silenced. I did seek all resounding caves. Let the voice be lit. Let all lanterns in the new world. We need the language of stone from string to string, quiver in the opening, the garden, so beautiful, Lucifer, dark, son of morning, no Eden, but innocence, no expulsion, but after. So you can probably tell from the sonnets that the line breaks are rough and you can't always hear them out loud. And there may be a little bit of confusion in the listening, but that is at least partially the experience of being lost in music. Here's one more. No more will I listen to other than a single note moaned, not known. I do not hear, think again what place presents itself, own, moan. Well, I hear body as battery of the one moment when it is time to open your mouth to plug in. I will allow what I invented to find its color, make a shape with which neither water nor sky do. How do you now in this contained shape go through your life, not like a constellation, not guessed at, intuited or divined, no name. So how do you discern a shape for what is often called God? And this next poem refers to Vanta Black. Vanta Black is an actual color that was developed. It's so black that your eye can't actually register it. And so it was designed for military technology and surveillance technology, but it was leased to Anish Kapoor, the sculptor, to make art with. He has the exclusive license for it. I'm so fascinated by that. So this sonnet refers to Vanta Black. Vanta Black was made for missiles or planes, for defense purposes, so dark no eye could see it. Some voices are like that. No one can hear them. It is not good to be lost. To be lost is more than metaphor for spiritual condition. I sit at the terrace overlooking the green sea. Perhaps it is failure that ought to be sought. The voice that fails falls silent. Sheila's or the bodies, the blue failed me. The sun fails every evening. I, we, you have all failed too. Everyone who strove all these long years for peace failed. So these poems, this particular poems were written in the summer of 2016.
Wow.
There was a lot more failure to come, and maybe a lot more, maybe we're going to turn it around as well. So I'll just close with one more song from the cycle.
Great.
Yeah. This is a, okay. Yeah, we'll just close with this one. I'm just trying to choose. We woke to the smell of burning air, a little cool smell of charred refuse, colors muted last night. The moon came clear, nearly blue, eyes too painfully large, rough on the eyes and impatient, but I wanted to look so badly for the meteors, the sea crashing against the rocks, smoke from the fire, obscuring the sky. In the morning we rode across the harbor and looking down into the water, realized the fear of heights and the fear of depth is the same fear, just one you see and one you don't.
Perfect. Thank you. You evoke some September, and I know September is not very far away. I'm just really hoping that we'll make a turnaround.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Okay, next we have Mark Pawlak.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you
You're
hear
all
me?
set, Mark.
All set?
Yes,
Great.
perfect.
Okay. Good. Well, thank you. That was great, Kazim. And thank you for organizing this again. This is really terrific. So I'm going to read a couple of new poems. The first one is called Signs and Ciphers. And it's sort of from an ongoing series that I started in my last book of kind of flaneur poems. And often they involve public transportation, which I spend a lot of time on. So Signs and Ciphers. Stepping out into the spring breeze to find pear blossoms scattered over where someone wrote in once wet cement, Billy J, 1987, and chalked on another concrete slab, faintly visible beneath hopscotch squares, a palimpsest, outline of a child, legs and arms akimbo. And at the busy avenue, my long shadow in the crosswalk, run over by passing cars again and again. Yesterday, two women, a team, silently worked opposite sides of this same street where trash cans were out for pickup. One slender, primly dressed, dark stockings, dark skirt, matching waist-length coat, sensible shoes, and pillbox hat. The other heavy-set sweatshirt, sweatpants, high-top sneakers, dark curls peeking out under multicolor knit cap, each pushing a grocery cart bulging with plastic bags. And yesterday, stepping off the bus in a sudden downpour, my hatless neighbor eyed the broken umbrella discarded in the gutter and cracked a wry smile. Today on the bus shelter's metal bench, an empty Marlboro flip-top box next to a plastic container half full of ripe berries, someone's hurried breakfast. It's moving day. Out bus window, lamps, chairs, dressers, sofas, box springs, you name it, heaped at curbsides. In the square, passers-by can't disturb the man sleeping in the alley behind the post office on a mattress dragged off the sidewalk, overstuffed rucksack his pillow. Around the corner outside the boutique shoe store, canvas lawn chairs line the sidewalk where suburban boys in sleeping bags have spent the night to get first crack at limited edition sneakers. And on brickwork at the subway entrance, a woman's high heel shoe, black patent leather, lost, discarded, just one, the left. Where was she coming from? Where was she headed? Did she leave this one shoe behind and continue hobbling on? Or did she slip off the other as well and proceed in stocking feet along the cold pavement, late for her rendezvous with what prince? Yesterday dressed in fatigues, a panhandler on milk crate, extending to passers-by his upturned cap, which jostled with a few rain-damp coins. Today, same milk crate, unoccupied, except for a rude cardboard sign, anything helps. Block lettered message left for contemplation, cipher to interpret, anything helps. Spring breeze, pear blossoms scattered, where someone wrote in wet cement, Billy J, 1987. And this is a poem titled In a Time of Pandemic. Cloud of white blossoms fills my front window, curbside ornamental pear tree. Out back, my cherry graft, cascading umbra of tendrils tied with delicate white bows. Next door, the magnolia offers magenta-edged petals by the fistful. And every neighborhood street's festooned. Apple blossoms, apple blossoms, apple blossoms. But grand prize belongs to the purple plum next block over, more precious for the brevity of its flowering. It takes my breath away. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, human life, its fragility, flowering of the sick, bedridden, the dying, intubated, the dead. I'll finish with one short poem also kind of in my flaneur series from my previous book. Here's my previous book. Short. Overheard, 2 teens on bus. What are we learning? I'll tell you about electrons. They're so small you can't see them. So you tell me, why do I need to know? Thank you.
Mark, thank you so much. Are you all set? Next, we have Fred Marchant. Let's just make sure. There we go.
I should be able to be heard now, yes?
Yes,
Good.
perfectly. Thank you.
All right, hi, everyone. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, all the organizers. And also let's thank the many years of organizers before this, the many folks who actually made this happen year after year. Thank you. This first poem is called What? It was a time of mid-level feelings with mid-level degrees of authenticity. We all got along well, and yet we were troubled by the direction we were taking. We had a leader, one might say a dear leader, but that would be too ironic for our taste. Still, we had a leader, and there were troops overseas. We couldn't remember the name of the language of the people we fought, but it was more or less a difficult tongue with a strange tribal history, the words most like a secret handshake. We still had enough to face the winters, which we all agreed were getting milder. My beloved and I calculated we had about 20 years to go. We had no children. We planned on getting a dog to see us through. Outside the window of the room where we spoke, a brilliant azure sky and the deep, shadowy green of the maple thriving beneath it. The temperature was perfect. Nothing felt so complicated we would not eventually come to terms with it. What? I see now the legitimacy and depth of the question. What were we afraid of? What were we trying so hard not to think about? What looping snare inside held us back, froze us, tightened up, then broke our necks? And this next poem is it's about a flower, the anemone, you know, the one that has a sort of flaring petal. And it's dedicated to the late George Kovac, the founder and editor of Consequence magazine. This poem is called War Anemones. Is there anything within heart sight such as this, whose petals have begun to flare and die, whose name means daughter of the wind, whose spidery roots have outgrown the green plastic pot that sat all winter with a flower on the edge, full-bodied, blood red to vein blue soft? Flora delicatio, the allure and charm of delicacy, our delight in hoping to live as long as can be, a hope as delicate as what you find in a child without guile, the sort who sweetly disobeys, who romps from the shelter with a smile and out into the bombed out street, who comes home covered in chalky blast dust, round face smeared into a mask under which eyes have widened and will stay that way. The kind of child we all know will sooner or later get easily killed. A child that someone will notice for a while and then forget For do we not know in advance the outcome of the story? How easy it is, or was, or ever will be for a child to die? For anyone or anything to trample or rip the flower out and fling it onto the piles? For each one is only just a flower. And is it not the petal's destiny to die easily, be killed quietly, to fall easily, quietly, beautifully, as you and me, and yes, as them, the all, the rest, the them, the anemones. I'm going to end with a very brief poem, a moderately brief poem called the Buddha of the Garden Table. And I've done a lot of, annually I go out to the West Coast to do a workshop with the Veterans Writing Group that's organized by Maxine Hong Kingston and her husband Earl. And this is dedicated to them. The Buddha of the Garden Table. Especially now, in the worst of it, I feel my mind pull away from the clank and clatter, from worries about health, money, and the jets overhead, from the angry sound of a car taking off, its driver burning rubber at the stop sign. What rises to mind instead is a memory of mists in the morning, seeping water, good soil that feeds the bougainvillea, sweet fern, and fennel in your backyard a continent away. That and a memory of the glass Buddha, its gray, translucent face watching over us, sitting at the round and rickety wooden table, telling stories, true ones, he said, of suffering and hope. How deeply every war gets etched within. How the heart recoils but does not forget. And how we teach each other how to outlast it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fred. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. And thank you for that gorgeous ode to George Kovac. Okay. Next, we have Zachary Bos.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly. Thank you.
I'll start with some 3 sonnets, and these come from a collection that was longlisted for the Thomas Salomon Prize this year, I'm glad to say. This one is Plum Island. Which are you going to do, small plovers? Run for cover or take the plunge? Neither. You just hover at the shoreline, where waves smooth and re-smooth the sand till it's as raw as scraped calfskin. Little poem makers. What are you writing, plovers? With your feet stamping cuneiform into the beach, malazones against seals, paeans to great birds of bygone years. These are our stories, you peep. May they never be forgotten. Until the next tide. Where are your lovers, plovers? Where are your children, your parents? Do you write to them, of them, for them? Your pages are white, punctuated by spoor. This one is titled Kenosis. I saw a dead hemlock, cone bedizened, suddenly expand, when small birds hidden in the mesh of needled branches all launched together from their perches. Like fragments of explosion, they vectored out and filled the air before collapsing once again to mesh their volume with that of the tree. They stayed in motion that way, a particle sphere opening and closing around the dry spindle of the gray trunk, a toy model of Pascal's God, whose center can be found everywhere at once, and whose circumference does not intersect the visible world, who renounced selfhood for murmuration. This poem is titled Mouthful, and it begins with an epigraph from Paul Celan, from his Sprachgitter. It's Zwei Mundvoll Schweigen, 2 mouthfuls of silence. In rehab, my father was encouraged to keep his hands full with knitting needles, playing cards, cribbage pegs, to keep them full and unavailable for the devil. But time is discontinuous. Between one unfiltered cigarette and the next, I saw his empty hands twitch, the muscles replaying old routines of fine control. A full syringe, clasped like a sharp-tipped pen, then the half plunge, the drawing back, precise, just so, decanting a measure of blood skillfully into the crystal barrel before the thumb drives home a second time. In any moment not occupied with busyness, his fingers would twitch the way a baby's mouth twitches, spilling babble. The baby gurgling ba ba, not quite yet the word father, like my father's mute tobacco-stained hands, shaping syllables. And only syllables, gabbling, never a full thought, never, forgive me all this. Repetitious fragments of proto-speech, beseech, aping a gesture of apology. And my next to last poem, I write a lot of sonnets and I write a lot of nature poems, but in the year of 2020, I think I'm a bit suspicious of my infatuation with the sentimental landscape, and I think we need to be making more good trouble. So I'm reflecting a bit on nature poetry. Pine Grove. Here, the purple air is wholly motionless and hangs low, heavy with the clean scent of summer sweet fern. Across the water, a heron rests among the white water lilies, slowly opening and closing her dark bill in the immobile heat. I could, but must not, sit still here forever. This remedy called peace and quiet is a preview to the never-ending calm of death. These trees rising like columns dig their white roots into the buried bodies of dead trees that seeded them. Each yellow fern stalk, waving flag-like under the pine boughs, marks a grave of some kind. We must never confuse the refuge with the world beyond, where just and needful work waits for us and waits for those who will come after us. The heron is hunting again, moving through sun and shade. After catching our breath, we must rise and leave these shrines of bells and perfume smoke and return to our unfinished homes. My last poem is titled Equinox in the Language of Birds. What tells that it is time to praise the transitory? White frost ferns on the fleche this morning, and choruses of mobbing crows crying hunger, hunger from stations in the empty oaks. The wind rolls handfuls of twig and acorn and desiccated leaf across the browning grass, seeking fortune in the pattern. Wild geese, fearing the greater infortune, rise and wheel away. Pullulating starlings shimmer in their dances of protection. The constant season urges flight in changing angles of the light and asks us to forget the burial of redemption and regret, the migration of song from north to south, the sparrows clinging to barren vines, the coiled snake in the fieldstone wall, frozen, an unmigrating owl crowning the winter pine. Alone among our unread books, we watch the turning of the year for something lost or almost here, the calendar's false symmetries. Thanks for organizing.
Thank you so much, Zach. That was perfect. I love what you say about rethinking some of the more, I don't want to call it sentimental, but the pastoral nature poems. Also read a poem recently by Suzanne called Corona, which I think is so fitting right now. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Alexis Bhagat.
Hi.
Hi.
Heartless. Sometimes you gotta be heartless in this life. There are some beliefs that are deeply obligatory. There are some beliefs that are deeply obligatory. They are the honest ones. They are the ones who will tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. So help you God. There are some beliefs that are deeply obligatory. The immediate result, Scorpio can seem heartless. Scorpio can seem heartless, but they are very caring. They are very caring. The immediate result of this neglect of the Japanese problem, there are some beliefs that are deeply obligatory. The immediate result of this neglect of the Japanese problem, the immediate result of this neglect of the Japanese problem was to give that branch of the Mongolian race, was to give that branch of the Mongolian race. There are some beliefs that are deeply obligatory. Encouragement in the belief. Encouragement in the belief. There are some beliefs that are deeply obligatory, and one is that poverty is not an acceptable feature in our social life. Encouragement in the belief that they were a welcome addition to our population. Scorpio can seem heartless, but they are very caring. Encouragement in the belief that they were a welcome addition to our population, and in consequence, they began to come in swarms. And in consequence, they began to come in swarms. And in consequence, they began to come in swarms like bees. Like bees. The book Scorpion, also known as the Mite Wolf, the book Scorpion, also known as the Mite Wolf, belongs to the class of arachnids, and to the order of pseudo-scorpions. Scorpio can seem heartless, but they are very caring, very emotional. They just act like villains. On the 1st of January, 1850, there were of Chinese in California 789 men. On the 1st of January, 1850, there were of Chinese in California 789 men and 2 women. In January 1851, there were 4,018 men, and in January 1851, there were 4,018 men and 7 women. In May 1852, 11,870 men. In May 1852, 11,870 men, 7 women, and 7 women. The book Scorpion is the most widespread pseudo-scorpion, and 7 women. Different types of scorpions are found in hives and beehives. In the 1850s, the state of California was an immense mining camp. Book scorpions are useful animals for honeybees and beekeepers. Book scorpions are useful animals for honeybees and beekeepers. The book scorpion feeds on parasites of bees in beehives, which makes it beneficial for honeybees and beekeepers. Beginning with the most menial vocations, they gradually invaded one industry after another. Since the book scorpions prefer to be at the bottom of the beehives, it is very probable that they took living mites from the board, which without their intervention would later have been counted as dead mites. Scorpios are jealous and mistaken for being possessive. They gradually invaded one industry after another until they not merely took the place of our girls as domestics and cooks. There were 7 women. No one really knows what goes on in their heads. Every revolutionary insurgent should remember that his personal enemies are the enemies of the people. In May 1852, in California, there were of Chinese 11,870 men and 7 women. Until they not merely took the place of our girls as domestics and cooked the laundry from our poor women, but also from our men and boys, as boot and shoemakers, cigar makers, bag makers, miners, farm laborers, bricklayers, tailors. No one really knows what goes on in the head of a Scorpio. The book Scorpion is very useful to the beekeeper. Tailors, slip makers, and other occupations. They are bringing drugs. They are bringing crime. They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. And some, I assume, are good people. Thank you. That was a derivative poem. The sources were various Twitter posts. Some beliefs came from The Heartless Society by Galbraith. The immediate result of this neglect of the Japanese problem came from Gomper's famous tract Meat versus Rice, and They're Bringing Drugs was by He Who Shall Not Be Named when he made his speech on the elevator in June 2015. So, thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Alexis. I've been obviously very mindful of the yellow peril that has taken over since COVID-19, and this was just so redemptive to hear. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Last but not least, we have Mairead Byrne. And Mairead, I believe you're all set to share your screen when you're ready.
Thank you, Christina.
You're welcome.
So am I sharing the screen? Yeah?
Yes, perfect. I'm seeing Found on the Ground.
Yeah, and I'm just going to read one poem, okay? And this is the title. I'll have to, I can't actually read it myself now. I'll have, because stuff is covering it. Found on the ground. Wait now, sorry. I'll have to read it off this slide here, I think. Found on the ground while walking a lot of times to the sub post office to trace a check sent to the US Treasury on July 1st, and which the USPS online tracking says is still on its way today, August 8th. Then walking to the main post office to get a form 3533 to request a refund for the certified mail, to which the clerk in the sub post office says I'm not entitled because he's never done a refund for certified mail before. And they're out, even though I tell him the USPS tracking says the mail is currently in transit to the next facility, while the IRS has already cashed the check according to my bank. Not the kind IRS rep I talked to after being on hold an hour, also showing the kind email Louisville Processing and Distribution Center sent on July 24th, acknowledging that the Postal Service is aware of the frustration and disappointment caused when we do not live up to our commitment of safe and reliable mail service, and apologizing for the inconvenience this has caused. These circumstances are entirely beyond your control. You mailed first class certified mail number 70192280000125330223 in an accurate and timely manner. Still, he calls his supervisor saying, I told this lady, long story short, just saying, this could happen to your vote. These are the items I found on the ground. A goldish chain brought home, best premium, a blackbird, a burst diaper, a blue mask, 64 cigarette butts, keys, which I pinned on a pole, Fireball cinnamon whiskey, thing with feathers for Josette, Pepsi and Newports, another mask, a lottery ticket furled, something unidentifiable but festive, hurricanes, another thing with feathers, floss, a mask shredded, a lottery ticket dappled, a pencil, Fireball and sea ice, a fledgling, a fallen cluster, a mask perpendicular, bric-a-brac, a bus pass ballad, ignite the night, a fledgling, a younger fledgling with flies, a tree downed, a mask in undergrowth, Marlborough, a party, Bud Light, a rodent with flies, a tree downed, a glove, masks in undergrowth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mairead. How did you get the preciseness of the cigarette butts? I'm so curious.
Oh, I counted from the photo.
Perfect. I would have been picking them up in real life.
No.
That was really, really amazingly unique. Also, I was thinking about the plethora of masks that I've been seeing on the ground, sadly enough. So it's a very modern and ancient scourge at the same time. And, you know, I think your pictures just bring everything to light. But that was absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And Mairead is actually, and sadly enough, our last reader of the hour. That was a wonderful, wonderful experience. So I am going to thank all of you, beginning with Amanda Hope, Josette Akresh-Gonzales, Cynthia Bargar, Kythe Heller, Kazim Ali, Mark Pawlak, Fred Marchant, Zachary Bos, Alexis Bhagat, and Mairead Byrne. Tech hosts, let's all go to grid view so that we can see our wonderful viewers. And I would like to name the next readers of the 4 o'clock hour. I think we're running a little bit late, but not too late. So next up in the 4 o'clock slot, we have James Stotts, Lloyd Schwartz, Amy Lawless, Mary Bonina, Martha McCullough, Dennis Nursk, Heather Hughes, Christine Jones, January O'Neill, and Kimberly Lyons. Thank you all so much. For anyone who would like to stay and ask questions, will be available in this particular Zoom room. All right. Goodbye, everyone.